Hello and welcome to the Kamla Show. We bring you interviews and conversations with technologists, entrepreneurs, filmmakers, and other news from in and around the San Francisco Bay Area. My guests today are filmmaker Yorgos Lanthimos and actress Ariane Labed. We talked to them about their film, The Lobster. This is Lanthimos' first English-language feature film and has been described as a dystopian one. The film stars Colin Farrell, Rachel Weisz, Jessica Barden, Ariane Labed, John C. Reilly, Leah Seydoux, and Ben Whishaw. The Lobster was screened at the 59th San Francisco International Film Festival. Here are Yorgos Lanthimos and Ariane Labed. Welcome to San Francisco and congratulations on the making of your film, The Lobster.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
How did you get the name for the film, The Lobster? How did it come to you?
Well, it's something that's has to do with the main character. It's his choice of animal that he wants to become if he fails to fall in love.
I understand that, but you chose the title. You or your co-writer chose the title. That's what I want to find out. Because as Colin Farrell mentions, a lobster lives for 100 years. It's loyal, it's blue-blooded. But why did you choose that name?
Well, I guess I don't know exactly why. You just try and find something that somehow represents the film in a certain way that is not too descriptive, that carries some of the tone of the film. So we just thought it was an appropriate title.
So The Lobster is a very interesting film. People have described it as dystopian. You have described it as funny. So has your wife. She has described it as funny. When I was watching the film, there was nothing funny. Of course, there were instances where the things were funny. But this is a film about how you're living in a society, a parallel society with rules and regulations. If you are not married, you go to a hotel, check in for 45 days. And if you don't find anybody, then you become an animal of your choice. How did you come up with this whole story? It is about relationships. It's about love and marriage. At the end of it, it is about love. But how did you come up with the idea along with your co-writer?
Well, it's a very long process that we go through. So there's never a precise moment where the idea comes to us. So it's always a dialogue between myself and ETHYMIS that we wrote the film together. We wanted to do something about romantic relationships and couples and single people and how single people fit into our society and how other people view them and the pressure that they have in order to be with someone, and that is considered as a successful way of living, and the pressure that they also put on themselves in order to find someone. So in general, I guess what we do is try and create a structure which allows us to explore these themes in slightly more extreme versions of them. So that's how we came with the idea of setting up a world that's very near our world but has slightly different rules.
You were at that time almost, I think you were living with your wife and you were going to get married. Did it come out of your personal dialogue between you and your wife?
No, it doesn't have to come from that specific moment. I think, we've all been single. We all know what it feels like. We observe other people around us that are single. So you just have to, look around you and, a lot of the elements are there.
How easy was it for him to commit to you?
I did all this. I don't know what to say. Not really.
Okay, so it was a mutual thing.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
No, I don't mean to put you in a spot, but you can't take your personal life out of whatever work you're doing. That's the reason I asked this question. The film is very somber. It has a certain tone. There is some music to it. How did you achieve that uniformity in tone? There's a gray, overcast look in that film.
Well, I don't think the whole film is grey overcast. There's some sunny moments in it. Well, I guess the look is because we shot it in Ireland, and it's a beautiful place with great landscapes, and the hotel's in a beautiful remote place by the sea. In general, the tone of the film, there's so many different elements that contribute into achieving the tone. There's a lot of there's a lot of humor in it. I think there's absurd and ridiculous situations. There's violence. There's music that's romantic, music that's dramatic. There's a voiceover which is sometimes observational. Sometimes when it's combined with the other elements, it becomes funny or ridiculous. So, layering all these different elements, one on top of the other, I think contributes into making this other tone that makes the film progress, until the end.
I was not sure where to place your film. And then I read an interview with Peter Strickland that you did. And he says the same thing, that he didn't know how to place this film. How do you place this film?
Well, fortunately, I don't have to. It's, we try and make the film true to what we think is right. And hopefully we create something which is relatively different or unique or has a voice of its own. So it's quite a compliment for someone to say that, you can't quite place it anywhere or compare it with something directly.
Now, you play a maid in the film who is in the hotel, but you are also somebody who is throughout the film, like Colin Farrell. How easy or difficult was it to work with your husband?
We've worked before together on another film called Alps, and it's great to work with a director that you admire and you really like, and I know his work, and it's always very, very inspiring and great to work with, great artists. So it's great.
When the film was completed, when you saw it for the first time, what was your reaction?
I was very, very, very proud. I love this film, and I think I understand that you say that there's something dark, of course, and it's it kind of put many things under questions, but I think it's truly touching and funny because it's very close to us, actually, and all this world is, I think we recognize ourselves in it a lot.
So the film, like I said, has been mentioned as being dystopian. I thought there was a bit of a utopian element because you have this controlled hotel environment with rules, and the goal is for somebody to get married, but then the dystopian or the twisted elements kick in. How difficult was it for you to go from the hotel to the forest where the loners exist?
Well, it wasn't difficult at all. It was for me, it was a necessary aspect of the whole world and the film that made it complete. There was the world that has its own rules, and most of the people live by them. And then if that exists and that's quite precise and sometimes oppressive, I think there's always the opposition. There's a group of people that will probably object to that and want to live in a different way. So for me, the world wouldn't be complete without having the loners in the forest. So for me, it's just the whole. It balances out the whole world.
You can choose not to answer this question. I thought a lot about it. This is, you are from Greece, and Greece has a rich history, political and cultural history. I'm wondering, did you ever go back to mythologies and look into how the Greek city-states existed and look at the rules then? Did that influence you in any way?
Not at all. That's the film and the rules comes out of our imagination and what we observe around us, and we just slightly push the things that we see and into extremes, and in order to create this different world.
Okay, and this was a film that you made during the Greek crisis?
Well, I don't think the Greek crisis has ever ceased, so I probably made it during that, and maybe I'll make a couple of other films during the crisis.
No, it is, I'm only human, and you're going to make that connection, right? Looking from far, you'll say, it was the Greek crisis, so I'm only human.
Yeah, but I'm just not sure how it is related. Apart from the fact that I'm Greek, I made this film elsewhere, so
I'll tell you how it's related. When something is happening in the country that you were born, questions arise. You talk, you have conversations, and you wonder why this happened, why at this time. So you keep questioning where did the country go wrong or where did this government go wrong, and you moved to England 4 years ago. That's the reason I asked.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of relevant and not. I mean, obviously, I moved to England because it was difficult to make films in Greece. So yeah, but I'm not sure how it relates to the essential core of the film that I made.
Right, that I understand. Yeah. So how did you get Colin in the film?
I asked him to be in it, and he said yes. He was aware of my previous work, so I sent him the script. I always make sure that the actors I approach, have seen at least one of my films, so because they are there, so it's a good way of starting a communication and a relationship. So he was aware of my work. I liked him very much. I thought he would be great in the film, and we talked on Skype for the first time, and we spent quite a bit of time just not saying much, but making sure that we feel comfortable with each other. And after that, I think we're both felt that it would be great to do this together.
And Rachel Weisz came to you and said she wanted to act in a film after she saw Dogtooth.
Yes, and that's great when it happens, when actors approach you to say that they're interested in working with you just because of what they've seen before, because you start with much more confidence, and that they understand your work, and they really are going to be very committed and supportive, and that's how it worked out in the end with all of the cast in the Lobster. They were extremely supportive and helped me go through the whole film.
And Leah Sado?
All the same.
Okay. The one thing that really appealed to me in the film is how did you get the symbol, when they're in the forest, the loners, they cannot talk. They listen and dance to music that they hear in their headset. Was that inspired by virtual reality trend?
No, it's just, for us, it's just logic. Because we try and find, since we set up a certain kind of rules within the world of the loners, then we just, according to that, we just try and figure out what would happen in each situation. So it's just a way of showcasing how absurd the world that they've created is.
And how did you come up with the hand gestures? That was just brilliant. If you raise your right hand, and that means you want to dance. And then if you do something else, you want to make love. How did you come up with those? Who came up with those?
Well, we did.
But how?
Well, it's just solving problems, really, when you're writing a screenplay and you have the characters having to communicate secretly. You're just trying to find a way. So the two of them couldn't in front of the loners just speak or show their sentiments. So they had to find a different language in order to do that. And sign language is something quite common. So through that, we created their language.
And what is next for you?
Right now, I'm going to work with my theater group. I do theater. And in films, I don't know right now.
And is this your first visit to San Francisco?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And how have you found it? Have you been able to step out?
A little bit. Yeah, I love it. It looks great.
Okay. And is this your first trip to San Francisco?
Yeah, unfortunately, and it looks great, and I'd like to see more of it.
Okay, and this is your first English feature film?
It is, yes.
Yeah, English language. And what is next for you?
Well, probably another English language film. I'm not entirely sure. I've been developing a couple of projects, and you'll see what happens first.
How do you say thank you in Greek?
Ευχαριστώ.
Ευχαριστώ.
Και εγώ.
Ευχαριστώ.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You were listening to an interview with filmmaker Yorgos Lanthimos and Ariane talk about their film, The Lobster. You can download this and other podcasts from our website. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, please feel free to send them to us. I'm on Twitter. My handle is @Kamla. And as always, thank you for tuning in.